She was told to clean a 300-person mess alone. The mafia boss took her apron and said, "The Great Hall of the New American Museum smelled like an ending. Not the clean, archival scent of history, but the sour, wet death of a party, stale wine, the ghost of expensive perfume, and beneath it all, the sharp tang of industrial floor cleaner I had not even used yet. It was 3 a.m. My name is Lila Hart. I am 26 years old, though on nights like this, my spine felt like it belonged to a woman of 66. I was the night shift custodian and auxiliary kitchen hand, which was a polite way of saying I cleaned what everyone else left behind. Tonight's mess was biblical. A 300-person gala for some tech fund, 300 mouths, 600 hands, and apparently 1,000 ways to spill champagne on marble. My manager, Henderson, had caught me by the service elevator just as his own night was ending. He adjusted his silk tie, his face flushed with leftover schmoozing. "Hart," he said, not quite meeting my eyes. The supplemental cleaning crew canceled. A pipe burst over in the West End. I just waited. I knew the tone. "It all has to be sterile by 7 a.m., he continued, gesturing vaguely at the ballroom, which looked like a hurricane had passed through a glass factory. "Every glass, every plate, every stain. We have the governor's breakfast tour. It has to be done. You'll handle it." He did not ask. He told. 300 guests, one me. My protest died in my throat. Protesting meant being replaced, and being replaced meant my brother, Milo, did not get his tuition for culinary school. It was that simple. So I tied the canvas apron tight around my waist. The strings were stiff with old soap. I wheeled out the big gray brute bin and began. The main lights snapped off one by one, massive sections of the ceiling plunging into darkness, leaving only the dim, blue-cast emergency lights by the exits. It was their way of saving money. It was my way of feeling buried. The silence was huge, broken only by the sharp, tragic clink of broken flute stems as I swept them into a dustpan. I was working near the abstract sculpture exhibit, kneeling to wipe a dark red smear from the base of a bronze pillar, when the main atrium doors opened. It was not the sound of a key card. It was the groan of the heavy glass being pushed manually. I froze. My job description did not include security. 3 men walked in. They did not look like security. They wore suits that were a size too large, trying to look official but just looking cheap. They moved with a swagger that did not belong in a museum at 3:15 in the morning. "Ma'am," the lead one called out. His voice echoed, too loud. "We're with the city. Spot inspection." I stood up slowly, wiping my hands on the apron. My heart was doing a stupid, fast knock against my ribs. An inspection now. "Urban Compliance Authority," he said, flashing a laminated card so quickly I could not read it. "We got an anonymous tip about code violations, hazardous materials storage." He looked around at the party mess with theatrical disgust. "Looks like we came to the right place." Another one, shorter, with a wheeze in his breath, pointed at the service corridor. "We need access to the logistics warehouse, now." A cold spike of adrenaline shot right through my fatigue. "I cannot do that, sir. I do not have keys for logistics. That's a day manager-only area. I just cleaned the hall." The leader's fake smile vanished. It happened so fast it was like a light bulb burning out. "We did not ask what you do. We said open the door." "I cannot," I repeated, my voice shaking. The third man, who had been quiet, suddenly stepped forward and kicked over a stack of chairs I had just finished arranging. The crash was violent in the quiet hall. "Where is it?" he snarled. "Where is what?" "The safe," said the leader. He stepped closer, and I could smell the cheap whiskey on his breath. "The portable safe from the gala, from the donation table. We know it left the floor. We know it did not leave the building. It's in logistics." My blood ran cold. I had not seen a safe. I had just seen trash and glass. "I do not know what you are talking about," I whispered. The man who kicked the chairs laughed. He grabbed my arm, his fingers digging into my bicep. Wrong answer. "Hey," the leader said, pushing him back lightly. "Let's be professional." He turned back to me, his voice dropping into a slimy, confidential tone. He leaned in, crowding me against the cold bronze pillar. Look, maybe there was a misunderstanding. We file a report. This place gets shut down. Bad for you, bad for us. Or we find a way to make this go away. A silence fee. You understand? For your lack of cooperation. He was close enough that I could see the sweat on his upper lip. This was not about code violations. This was not about the city. These were not cops. This was a shakedown, and I was the only person here. I was trapped between a 2-ton sculpture and a man who smelled like a dive bar. I opened my mouth to scream, but nothing came out. Click. It was the quietest sound, but it cut through the tension like a razor. It was the sound of the magnetic lock releasing on the staff-only side sally port. The men turned. A man stepped out of the shadows of the corridor. He was alone. He wore a dark, impeccably tailored suit, no tie. He looked to be in his mid-30s, with dark hair and a stillness that was more intimidating than the other men's bluster. He did not look at them. He did not look at me. His eyes dark and sharp as obsidian chips scanned the room, assessing the overturned chairs, the broken glass, and the 3 men who had frozen in place. He looked like he knew every exit, every shadow, and every secret the building held. He walked toward us, not fast, not slow, just a deliberate, measured pace that ate the marble floor. He stopped about 10 feet away. He finally looked at me, his gaze dropping to the stained canvas apron I wore. The leader of the fake inspectors puffed himself up. "Sir, this area is closed for a city investigation. You need to—" The man in the suit held up one hand, a simple gesture, but it silenced the other man instantly. He walked directly to me. The 3 thugs parted for him like water around a stone. He stood in front of me, close enough that I could smell the clean, expensive scent of wool and something like bergamot. He looked at my hands, which were clenched white-knuckled around my dustpan. Then, very gently, he reached out and took the soiled top edge of my apron. He untied the knot behind my back with one fluid motion. He pulled the apron off me, shook it once to dust off the glass shards, and draped it over his own forearm. He turned his head slightly toward the leader. His voice was low, a deep rumble that seemed to vibrating the air. "This isn't for you," he said. "I'll handle this." Before the fake inspectors could even process the words, 2 other men materialized from the same corridor. They were built like refrigerators, wearing the same dark suits, but theirs were functional, not fashionable. They did not block the door. They simply stood between me and the 3 men, creating a wall of muscle and wool. "Tino Bianchetti," the man holding my apron said. His voice was calm. "My associates will need to see your credentials." The leader, trying to regain his footing, scoffed. "We are the UCA. We do not answer to—" "Credentials," said one of the bodyguards. His voice was like gravel. The leader nervously fumbled for his laminated card and held it out. The bodyguard did not take it. He just looked down at it. "Urban Compliance Authority." The bodyguard read aloud, a hint of amusement in his flat tone. "There is no such agency in Gray Point. That logo is from a defunct courier service in Baltimore." The blood drained from the leader's face. He knew he was not just caught. He was identified. There must be a mistake," he stammered, pulling his card back. "There is," Tino Bianchetti said softly. He had not moved. "You are in the wrong place, and you are bothering my staff." My staff, I'd never seen this man in my life. The leader looked at Tino, then at the 2 bodyguards, and seemed to do a very fast, very terrifying calculation. "This is not over," he hissed, but all the threat was gone, replaced by a desperate need to leave. He and his 2 men backed away, then turned and nearly ran for the main atrium doors, their footsteps echoing in the cavernous, empty hall. The silence that fell was heavier than before. It was thick with questions I was too scared to ask. My legs felt like they were full of wet sand. I was shaking so hard I had to lean back against the pillar. I did not know if I was relieved or terrified. Gratitude and fear were tangled up so tightly in my chest I could not breathe. Tino Bianchetti watched the doors close. He waited a full 10 seconds, then he turned back to me. He held out my apron. I took it, my fingers numb. He then reached into his suit pocket and pulled out a small, paper-wrapped package. He pressed it into my hand. It was a pair of new, thick-set rubber gloves. "You should not have to clean up a mess like that," he said, his dark eyes finally meeting mine. They were unreadable, but they were not cold. "But you're not working alone tonight." He nodded once toward the service corridor. "My men will wait by the exit until sunrise. No one else will bother you." He turned and walked back into the shadow of the corridor, his bodyguards following, vanishing as silently as they had arrived. I stood there for a long time, the flimsy apron in one hand, the new gloves in the other. Far away, beyond the museum's thick walls, I heard the faint, lonely wail of a night patrol siren. The sound cut through the silence, a reminder of the real city outside. But the real danger, I realized, was not the men who had run. It was the man who had stayed. The promise that I was not alone felt less like a comfort and more like the first click of a lock snapping shut. The sun was a dirty gray smear against the Gray Point skyline when I pushed the last wheeled bin into the service elevator. My back was a solid block of pain. The two men in suits had remained by the sally port, silent as statues, for 4 straight hours. I had cleaned the 300-person mess, but I had not been alone. As I was stripping off the new gloves Tino Bianchetti had given me, my hands raw and stinging underneath, he reappeared from the same shadowy corridor. He was carrying 2 steaming styrofoam cups. "You missed a spot," he said, his voice quiet in the vast, sterile hall. I bristled, my entire body aching with defiance. I turned, scanning the gleaming marble floor. "Where?" He tapped the top step of the grand exhibition staircase, which led down to the atrium. He sat down and held out one of the cups. Coffee. Black. 2 sugars. My throat was dry, and he knew how I took my coffee. I hesitated, my hands still gritty from the cleaning chemicals. "It is just coffee, Lila." My name. He knew my name. Of course he did. He had called me my staff. A chill ran up my arms that had nothing to do with the early morning air. I sat 2 steps below him, keeping a careful distance. The coffee was scalding hot and strong, and it burned a clean, necessary line down to my stomach. "Those men," I said, my voice hoarse. "The inspectors." "Amateurs," he said, staring out over the empty hall, which now reflected the pale dawn light. "They work for the Dagger Creek Syndicate. The Urban Compliance Authority is just the name they use when they want to look official before they break someone's kneecaps. Dagger Creek. I barely breathed the name. Everyone in Gray Point had heard it. You heard it when a corner store suddenly burned down after refusing to pay insurance. You heard it when a union boss vanished from the docks. They run the waterfront." "They try to," he corrected, sipping his coffee. "They are expanding. They thought the museum gala was an easy score, that the tech crowd was soft. They wanted the safe, but they were sloppy. They got the timing wrong, and they panicked. And they thought I had it. They thought you were the weakest link," he said, his gaze fixed on the entrance. "They were wrong." I looked at him. Really looked at him in the growing light. His suit probably cost more than my brother's entire tuition for the year. His stillness was the most unnerving thing about him. He was not a cop. He was not museum staff. He was the kind of man who sends men built like refrigerators to guard a janitor. "Who are you?" I asked, the words sharper than I intended. "Why do you care about a panicked shakedown or the weakest link? What business is it of yours?" He turned his head slowly. His eyes were dark, but the faint morning light found a fleck of gold in them. "I am just a man who hates seeing bullies pick on people who are just trying to do their job." It was a good line. It was smooth. It was also, I was certain, not the whole truth. It was not even close. "That is a very simple answer for a very complicated man, Mr. Bianchetti." "Tino," he corrected, his voice firm, "and it is the only answer you need right now." He stood up, brushing invisible dust from his trousers. "They will be back. Lila, not here, perhaps, but they saw your face. They think you are connected to that safe. Or worse, they think you are connected to me." He set his empty cup down. "So, some new rules for you. First, you do not answer your phone if you do not recognize the number. Let it go to voicemail, always. Second, you walk the long way. Stick to routes with cameras. Main streets, bank lobbies, convenience stores. Never the alley, never the shortcut." "I know how to walk home," I said, the defensiveness rising in me. "You know how to walk home when you are invisible," he countered, his voice losing its warmth. "You are not invisible anymore. And third," he reached into his breast pocket and pulled out a simple, silver business card holder. He slid one card out. It was blank, made of heavy, expensive stock, except for a small, embossed logo in the corner. It looked like a stylized drop of amber. "If you see this logo on anything, a letter, a package, an envelope left on your door, you do not open it. You call the number on the back of this card. You say your name. That is all." I looked at the card. The number was just 10 digits. No name, no company, just the amber drop. "I have a car waiting," he said, gesturing toward the Sally Port where his men stood. "It will take you home." "No, thank you," I said immediately. Pride, or maybe just stupidity, made me rigid. "I take the bus. The 5:30 a.m. is in 10 minutes. "You are not taking the bus today." "I am not getting in your car," I said, standing up. I was 26, not 16. I made my own choices, even if they were bad ones. Tino did not sigh. He did not argue. He just tilted his head and pointed up, way up. We were in the glass-roofed atrium. The sun was just starting to hit the reinforced glass of the skylights, turning the dust motes into tiny diamonds. "Look hard," he said. I squinted, following his finger. At first, I saw nothing, just the steel girders and the brightening, smoggy sky. Then I saw them. Two dark shapes, distortions in the angled glass. They were on the roof of the opposite wing. Two men, watching us. My breath caught. "Are those your men?" "No," he said, his voice flat. "Those are their men. Dagger Creek. They are watching to see who I am and where you go. They have been there for at least an hour." He looked back at me, his face impassive. "My car is in the subterranean loading bay. They cannot see it. They cannot follow it. You can take the bus and lead them straight to your apartment, or you can take the ride. Your choice." My choice felt like a trap closing. My stomach churned. "The loading bay," I said, my voice barely a whisper. The car was a black sedan, as I expected, but it was modest. Clean, but not flashy. The driver was one of the refrigerators from earlier. He just nodded at me. Tino got in the back with me. The seats were soft leather, and the car smelled like a suit wool and bergamot and something cold, like steel. We drove through the gray, waking streets of Gray Point in complete silence. The city looked different from this angle, isolated and clean behind the tinted glass. "Hallow Ridge," I said, breaking the silence. "Corner of Oak and 34th. He just nodded. "I know. You know where I live." It was not a question. "I know who works for the museum," he said, looking out the window. "It is good to know who is in the buildings I visit." "You visit the museum often, at 3 in the morning." He almost smiled. "Sometimes." The silence returned, heavier this time. I felt like I should say something, fill the space with noise to prove I was not terrified. "My mom is a nurse," I blurted out. "At St. Jude's, night shift, like me, my brother, Milo. He's in culinary school. He's trying to be a chef. That is why I do this. The extra shifts, I am saving up." I stopped, feeling stupid. Why was I telling him this? The rent just went up. I finished lamely. Doubled. Tino looked out the window as the run-down blocks of Hallow Ridge passed by. A culinary student. That is good. Hard work. He did not offer money. He did not offer pity. He just stated a fact. "My father worked in a bakery, started at 2 a.m. every morning." "And you," I asked, pushing my luck. What do you do besides crash city inspections and collect information on janitors? He turned his gaze back to me. I run a night logistics network. Like shipping FedEx. Something like that, he said. I move things around the city when everyone else is asleep. I make sure the right things get to the right places, and the wrong things disappear. The implication hung in the air, thick and dangerous. It was not the sound of gunfire, but it was the smell of gunpowder. The car pulled up to the curb half a block from my building. The refrigerator driver did not move. They will not look for you here, Tino said. Not for a while, but stay smart. Use the rules. I grabbed my backpack from the floorboard, my original canvas apron stuffed inside. Thank you for the help at the museum. Lila, he said, stopping me before I could close the door. His eyes were serious, pinning me in place. Keep that apron. I looked down at my bag. It is museum property. Not anymore, and he said, keep it clean. Tonight, it was your white flag. It marked you as a civilian. It is the only reason those men hesitated. He leaned forward slightly, his voice dropping. But a white flag is also a surrender. You understand, if you are in trouble again, it is how you signal me. But I keep what I protect. I nodded, the cold morning air hitting my face. I stepped out, and the black sedan pulled away, silent as a shadow. My apartment building, the Hallow Ridge Arms, had a single flickering yellow bulb in the lobby and an elevator that smelled like wet carpet. As I rode up to the 4th floor, the exhaustion hit me like a physical blow. The adrenaline was gone, leaving only the deep ache in my muscles and the fear, now settling into a cold knot in my stomach. The heavy steel door of the elevator shuddered closed in the quiet darkness of the hallway, standing between the peeling paint and the worn, cracked tile. I let myself lean against the wall, and he had been polite, he had been protective, but he was dangerous. The Dagger Creek Syndicate was dangerous, and I was stuck between them. But for the first time since my rent had doubled, I felt something else. It was not trust. It was not hope. It was smaller, more fragile. A nascent belief that I was not entirely alone. A kernel of unnamed faith in the man who ran the night. I slid my key into the lock of apartment 4B. My phone vibrated in my pocket, a deep, buzzing vibration I did not recognize. It was not a call. It was a text. I pulled it out, an unknown number. Rule number 1. You do not answer your phone if you do not recognize the number. My hand, slick with nervous sweat, fumbled with the deadbolt. It buzzed again. A picture message. My curiosity, stupid and loud, overruled Tino's warning. I opened it. My blood turned to ice. It was a picture of me. It was a selfie, but I had not taken it. Someone had taken it of me. Tonight, in the museum. I was in the background, on my knees, wiping a wine stain from the marble floor by the bronze pillar. I looked small and tired and completely, utterly unaware. They must have been standing right behind me, before Tino, before the inspectors. Beneath the picture, there were just 4 words. Where is the safe? And next to the words, a single symbol, a short, glistening dagger. I stood frozen in the dim, urine-yellow light of the hallway, staring at my own face. I finally understood. Henderson's canceled cleaning crew, the anonymous tip to the fake UCA, the watchers on the roof, the selfie. This was not an accident. I was not the weakest link. I was the target. The job to clean up after 300 people was not just a job, it was a setup. And the party had just turned into a storm with 300 traps. I woke up to my face trending on the internet. I had slept for maybe 90 minutes, a dead, dreamless sleep, fully clothed on top of my covers. My phone was vibrating on the floor, buzzing not with a single text, but with a swarm of news alerts from every local outlet. It was everywhere. The Gray Point Gazette, Channel 5 News, the gossipy city blogs, Charity Gala Hit Mystery, Safe Vanishes from New American Museum. My stomach twisted into a cold, hard knot. I clicked the first link. They were calling it the museum heist. The hashtag was already a joke to the rest of the city, a high society mystery for them to sip their morning coffee over. Then I saw it. Buried in the third paragraph of the Gazette article was a 30-second video clip. It was grainy, clearly shot on a phone, and aimed at a security monitor. It was me. The clip showed me pushing the big gray brute bin near the service corridor, right where those fake inspectors had cornered me. The timestamp on the monitor read 3:04 a.m. The caption beneath the video was simple and brutal. Night staff seen near logistics area moments before alleged theft. Alleged, that one word felt like a conviction. I was still staring at my own grainy, exhausted image when an email came through. It was from Henderson, my manager. It was a forward. The subject line was in all caps, urgent federal requisition. The attached PDF was scanned, slightly crooked, and looked terrifyingly official. It had an eagle logo, but the eagle looked too aggressive. Its wings spread too wide, like a predator. The letterhead read, Federal Organized Crime Directorate, FOCD. My fingers trembled as I zoomed in on the text. Hereby requisitioning full cooperation. Full roster of night shift employees. Regarding the ongoing investigation into interstate racketeering and theft. It sounded impressive. It sounded final. I copied the name and pasted it into my phone's browser. Nothing. No official government website, no press releases, just a few broken links on a web forum discussing conspiracy theories about shadow agencies. It was fake. It was another set of fake suits, just like the UCA, but with a better printer and a scarier name. Henderson's own email, the one he had typed above the forwarded PDF, was short. Hart, they are asking specifically about you. I have given them your name and employee file. Do not come in for your shift tonight. We will discuss your future employment when this is resolved. Just like that, discuss my future employment, I was out. He had served me up on a platter to a fake government agency to save the museum's reputation. The organization I was cleaning up after at 3 a.m, the one I had protected by not giving keys to those thugs, had just cut me loose. I spent the day in a haze, trapped in my 4th-floor apartment, jumping at every creak in the hallway, the real squeeze, the one designed to break me. Started around noon. My phone rang. It was Maya, a woman from the kitchen staff who sometimes covered my lunch breaks. Her voice was not friendly. Lila, you better not show your face here. Seriously. Maya, what is going on? I got Henderson's email, but Henderson told everyone you were the inside contact. She snapped. He said you were likely skimming for months, that this whole safe thing was your doing. That is a lie. I did not do anything. Yeah, well, someone is spreading it, she hissed. The rumor is that you are working with that gangster, Tino Bianchetti, that you staged the whole thing to hand the safe over to him. You are toxic. Lila, do not call me. She hung up. I sank onto my sofa, the phone heavy in my hand, dagger creak. This was their move. It was brilliant in a sickening way. They could not find me, so they were painting a target on my back so large that the entire city could see it. They were making me toxic. They were isolating me, cutting me off from the normal world, from my job, from my coworkers, so I had nowhere left to run. They were making the lie so big that Tino Bianchetti would be the only person left for me to turn to. He found me anyway. I did not call him. I did not know how. But at 4 p.m, as the sky turned the color of a fresh bruise, there was a quiet, solid knock on my door. It was not the refrigerator driver. It was Tino. He looked as calm as he had in the museum, as if he were stopping by for a neighborly chat. He was not wearing a jacket, just a dark button-down shirt with the sleeves rolled up his forearms. He did not ask to come in. He just leaned against the door jamb opposite mine, hands in his pockets. Your manager is an idiot, he said. It was not an apology. It was an assessment. He fired me. He suspended you, Tino corrected, his voice quiet. You are not fired yet. I also know the FOCD is as real as the UCA. Different arm, same octopus. Dagger Creek is getting desperate. They are getting loud. "They are telling everyone I work for you," I said, my voice shaking with a cold anger. "They are saying I gave you the safe." "I know," he said. "My people have been listening. The rumor is running through every late-night diner, every print shop, every cab depot in this city. They are painting that target on you." "Your people?" "The infrastructure of the invisible," he said. "The people who really see the city, the man who sells the hot dogs at 2 a.m., the woman who runs the all-night copy machine, the dispatcher for the taxis. They are the ones tracing the license plates from those UCA cars. They will find the nest." He looked at me, his gaze intense, pinning me to the spot. "But that rumor, it gives us an option. They already think you are mine. Let me make it true." My heart hammered against my ribs. "What does that mean?" "It means I put my name on you," he said simply, as if discussing a business transaction. "It means I let the street know, through my own channels, that Lila Hart is under the protection of my organization. The rumors stop. Dagger Creek backs off. You're safe. Your family is safe." This was it. The smell of underworld law, a contract written in shadow, my life for my allegiance. "No." The word came out stronger than I felt. His eyebrows raised, just slightly. "I did not take their safe," I said, my voice gaining strength. "I am not taking your protection. I'm not trading one cage for another. I will not be yours. I am going to clear my name, the real way." Tino studied me for a long, silent moment. I expected him to be angry, to push, to threaten me with what would happen if I refused. Instead, he nodded, a slow, appraising gesture, as if I had passed a test I did not know I was taking. "All right, Lila Hart," he said, "the real way, but the real way is harder, and it is not safe." He reached into his pocket, not a business card this time, a tiny plastic square, a new SIM card. "This is a clean SIM," he said, "untraceable. Put it in your phone. It only has one number saved in it, mine." He held it out, resting it on his palm. "You said I was not alone," I whispered, remembering his words in the museum. "You are not," he confirmed, "but I cannot be everywhere. If you call that number, I will be there in 7 minutes. That is the promise." 7 minutes, that is specific. "In Gray Point, Matt," he said, his voice dropping. 7 minutes is code. It means drop everything. It means life or death. Do not use it unless you mean it." I took the SIM card. It felt as heavy as a bullet. He left. I swapped the SIM, and my phone rebooted into a sterile, empty interface. I locked my deadbolt. I wedged my sturdiest kitchen chair under the doorknob. It felt useless. I sat in the dark for hours. The city sounds, sirens, arguments, the rumble of the late bus all felt like approaching threats. Rain began to fall around midnight, a cold, miserable early autumn rain that slicked the streets and tapped against my window like nervous fingers. I must have dozed off in the armchair, because the sound that woke me was not the rain. It was the snap of wood splintering. I bolted upright. My apartment door, the frame itself, groaned. Someone was using a crowbar. I scrambled backward as the chair I had wedged under the knob was kicked inward, scraping hard against the old linoleum. The door flew open, hitting the wall with a bang. A man, dressed in dark, wet clothes, a baseball cap pulled low, his face covered by a cheap surgical mask. I screamed. He did not look at me. He completely ignored me, as if I were a piece of furniture. He walked straight past me, into my tiny kitchen. He was not here for me. He was here for the safe. He moved with a frantic, destructive energy. He ripped the cupboard doors off their hinges. He dumped the contents of my drawers onto the floor cutlery, junk mail, spices. He threw my microwave onto the ground, where the glass plate shattered. "Where is it?" he grunted, kicking the side of the refrigerator. "Where did you hide it?" "I do not have it," I cried, my back pressed against the wall by the sofa. "I do not know what you are talking about." He grabbed the flimsy pantry shelf and tore it from the wall. Cans of soup and boxes of pasta rained down around him. He He was not a professional. He was a thug. He spun, his eyes wild and scanning, and saw my phone clutched in my hand. "Cops, you calling cops?" He lunged for me. I did not think. I just reacted. I grabbed the only thing near me, a heavy glass vase my mother had given me, and threw it with all my strength. It missed his head but shattered against his shoulder. He roared, more in anger than pain. That was all the time I needed. I fumbled with the phone, hitting the single saved contact, the 7-minute call. The man advanced, grabbing a handful of my shirt and pulling me forward. "You stupid little—" "He is on his way," I shrieked, a desperate animal lie. "He's outside Bianchetti." The name was magic. The man froze. His grip on my shirt tightened, then released. Shoving me back, he looked at the broken door, then at me. The wildness in his eyes turned to calculation. He was not afraid of me. He was terrified of Tino. He pushed me, hard. I fell backward over the spilled pasta, my head hitting the drywall. He did not follow up. He did not hit me again. He ran. His heavy, wet boots echoed down the apartment hallway, and then he was gone. I lay on the floor, surrounded by my ruined kitchen, shaking so violently I could not stand. The phone was still clutched in my hand. It had not even finished the first ring. The first autumn rain was lashing against the window now, a furious downpour. My door was splintered. My home was violated. I pressed the call button again. This time, I let it ring. One ring. Lila, his voice, no hello, just my name. He was in my apartment, I sobbed, the words tumbling out. He came in. He broke the door. He tore up my kitchen. He left. He just left. The line was silent for just 1 second, but in that second, I heard the sound of a car engine starting, the heavy thrum of power. "I am coming," he said. "Lock what is left of your door. I will be there in 6 minutes." He hung up. I crawled to the door and pushed it shut. The frame was split, the lock useless. I sat with my back against it, my knees drawn to my chest, and I watched the clock on my shattered microwave. It was not 6 minutes. It was 6 minutes and 12 seconds. I heard the ding of the elevator, then his fast, measured footsteps. He did not knock. He just pushed the broken door open. Tino Bianchetti stood in the doorway, framed by the dim yellow hall light. He was wearing a dark coat, and the rain was glistening in his hair. His eyes did not go to me first. They scanned the room, the overturned chair, the ruined kitchen, the scattered food. Then his gaze settled on the floor. He stepped inside, his polished shoes crunching on broken glass and dried pasta. He crouched down. The thug had left a message. There, carved deep into my cheap kitchen linoleum, was the symbol, a short, vicious dagger. Tino looked up, his dark eyes finding mine. The calm, detached demeanor was gone. It was replaced by something cold, something controlled, something that looked terrifyingly like rage. He reached a hand down to me. I took it. His grip was firm, warm, and he pulled me to my feet easily. "This stops," he said. His voice was not loud, but it cut through the sound of the rain. "They put their hands on you. They crossed the line. This is not just your fight anymore." He looked from the carved dagger on my floor to my face. "From now on," Tino Bianchetti said, "we investigate this together." Tino did not take me back to my apartment. The splintered door and the dagger carved into the floor had made that impossible. He made one call, his voice low and guttural, speaking in rapid Italian. Then he guided me back down to his car, one hand lightly on my back, a gesture that was not possessive, but proprietary. It was a shield. He drove to the North Star, a 24/7 diner under the elevated train tracks, a place lit by harsh fluorescent bulbs and smelling of old coffee and bacon grease. It was a bubble of lonely light in the soaking wet. 2 a.m. darkness. He chose a booth in the far back, facing the door, and ordered 2 black coffees from a waitress who looked as tired as I felt. He slid one across the table to me. My hands were still shaking. "My people are cleaning your apartment," he said, his voice level. "They will replace the door. check for listening devices, and scrub that symbol off the floor. You will not stay there tonight. You will not stay there again. I just stared into the black, reflective surface of the coffee. Where do I go? I have a place. It is quiet. It is clean. No one will find you. A new cage. A cleaner cage. But still a cage. The steam from the coffee stung my eyes. I hate this, I whispered, the words ragged. I hate this. Owing people, being kept. He watched me, his expression unreadable. When I got into Gray Point University, I said, the words just spilling out. I had a scholarship for stage design, not acting, not writing. I liked building the worlds. I liked the lighting, the scaffolding, controlling the illusion. I took a shaky sip. My second year, my mom got sick, really sick. She could not work her shifts at the hospital. Milo, my brother, was still in high school, so I dropped out. I told them I was taking a semester off. That was 4 years ago. I looked up at him, needing him to understand the raw, acidic feeling in my gut. I took this job at the museum. Then I took a second job in the mornings, prepping vegetables for a catering company. All of it, every dime. It goes to rent, to my mom's prescriptions, to Milo's culinary school. I do not take loans. I do not borrow. Because the moment you owe someone, they own a piece of you. They get to pull your strings. I hate being indebted. So you would rather stand alone and be a target, he asked. It was not an accusation, just a blunt question. I would rather stand alone and be free, I retorted. Tino leaned back, the old vinyl of the booth groaning. You think I am free? He looked past me, out the window, where the elevated train rumbled by, shaking the sugar packets on the table. I grew up in Flintwater, down by the docks. My father, the baker, he died when I was 13. I started working on the piers, unloading fish, then other things. Flintwater was not Dagger Creek territory then. It was chaos. Everyone took, everyone bled. He picked up his spoon and turned it over, studying his own reflection in the cheap metal. There was an old woman, Mrs. Gotti. She ran a bakery on our block, the one my father used to work at. She stayed open all night, making bread for the entire district. 40 people worked there. Immigrants, mostly. People with no papers. No other place to go. A gang from the east side decided she was an easy mark. They wanted protection money. They broke her windows. They poisoned her flour. The cops did nothing. So, he continued, his voice flat, I went and saw them. I was 17. I made an agreement. What kind of agreement, I asked, my blood running a little cold. I agreed that they would never set foot in Flintwater again, and they agreed that they would give me their leader. He dropped the spoon. It clattered loudly against the saucer. I took him back to the bakery. I made him work. Mix the dough, scrub the floors, load the trucks for 1 week, then I let him go. He looked at me. He never came back. Mrs. Gotti never paid a dime to anyone. Those 40 people kept their jobs. I kept the peace. He leaned forward slightly. Was that protection, Lila, or was it control? Did I own them? I swallowed. The coffee tasted bitter. You did it to send a message. You did it to build your own territory. You protected them, yes, but it served you. It made you the power in Flintwater. It served us, he corrected, his voice sharp as broken glass. They were my people. You do not let wolves into your own house. You do not protect the weak because it is nice. You protect them because a house divided is a house that burns. Dagger Creek, they are wolves. They are burning the house. So you only protect the weak if it serves your purpose, I challenged, pushing the cup away. He met my gaze. The coldness was back, but it was not aimed at me. It was the coldness of a law. I keep agreements, he said, his voice low and absolute. That is my religion. Lila, I do not lie. I do not break my word. I told those men at the museum that you were my staff. They came into your home. They broke the agreement. Now, I will break them. A shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold. This was the man who had offered to put his name on me. I saw the duality clearly now, the warmth of his protection and the absolute lethal cold of his code. I pulled my mind back to the facts, back to the splintered door. They were not looking for me. Tino? Not really, the one who broke in. He was looking for the safe. He was frantic. He was a fool, Tino said. A low-level thug sent to scare you, who got greedy. Dagger Creek knows you do not have it. The FOCD, the UCA. This is all noise. They are not trying to find the safe. I looked at him. They are trying to control the story. They are trying to pin it on me. Or on you. Exactly, which means the safe was never stolen in the first place. The diner suddenly felt very quiet. What do you mean? Theft is messy, he said. The Dagger Creek crew was sloppy, but the safe disappearing from a gala full of tech billionaires, that is not messy. That is clean. It was not a theft. Lila, it was a transfer. They used the chaos of the party as cover to move it. The pieces began to click, forming a new, terrible picture. Henderson. He canceled the supplemental cleaning crew. He isolated me. They needed you there as the witness, Tino said, or the scapegoat. Either way, you were part of the plan. So, we stopped thinking like thieves. We start thinking like logistics. He smiled, but it was a predator's smile. My specialty. Logistics, I repeated, my mind racing, pulling at the thread of the memory, the end of the night, the noise, the overwhelming mess, the trash. Go on. At the end of a big event, we have 3 separate pickups, I said, thinking aloud. Food waste, which goes to compost, general recycling, and specialty waste. That is what Henderson calls it. The tech gala had a lot of it. Old electronics they were demonstrating. Proprietary junk. A specialty waste truck, Tino said, his eyes lighting up. A private hauler, not city sanitation, big enough to hold a portable safe, anonymous. And high tech, I said, the memory sharpening. The truck was new, white. I had never seen it before. The logo was weird. What did it look like? Stars, 5 of them, I think, in a circle. The company name was Clean Nova. Yes. Clean Nova Tech Disposal. Tino's rare smile was not a smile at all. It was a baring of teeth. It was the look of a wolf that has just caught the scent of its prey. I know them, he said, his voice a purr. They are a ghost company. They specialize in moving things that do not want to be found. Their trucks run on virtual GPS networks. They can be in the middle of the city, but their trackers say they are in New Jersey. They are the perfect way to make a safe disappear in plain sight. He stood up, throwing a $50 bill on the table. They think they are ghosts. What are we going to do? He looked down at me, and the smile became genuine. Just for a second, it transformed his face, chasing the shadows from his eyes. Tonight, Lila, Tino Bianchetti said, we go garbage picking. He drove me, not to a safe house, but back through the winding, empty streets of the city. The rain had stopped, but a powerful wind was rushing through the canyons of the buildings, cold and sharp. He did not speak. He was thinking, his profile silhouetted against the wet, glittering lights of the skyline. He stopped the car. We were on the North Star Bridge, the one that spanned the Gray River, connecting the old docklands of Flintwater to the glittering towers of downtown. He cut the engine. The only sound was the wind, a high, mournful howl as it tore past the car. He got out. I waited a beat, then followed him, my hand on the cold, wet metal of the door. The wind hit me instantly, whipping my hair across my face, cutting through my thin sweater. I was freezing, my bones aching with cold and exhaustion. Tino was standing at the railing, looking down at the black, churning water. You see that light, he said, pointing to a single, blinking red light far down the river. That is the old Flintwater Pier. That is where I made my agreement. You stand on that pier. You can see the whole city. You can see who has the power and who is about to lose it. I walked to stand beside him, my arms crossed, shivering. What do you see now? He turned to look at me, his dark coat flapping in the wind. He saw me shaking. He did not say anything. He did not ask if I was cold. He simply took off his heavy wool coat. It was dark, almost black, and when he moved, I caught that scent again: wool, bergamot, steel. It was the coat of a man who commanded, who protected, who owned. He stepped forward, and before I could protest, he draped it over my shoulders. The weight of it was immediate. It was heavy, and it was warm. So incredibly warm, the wind instantly vanished, muffled by the thick, expensive fabric. It enveloped me, smelling of him. I clutched the lapels, my small, chapped hands lost in the dark wool. The distance between us, the barrier of his power and my fear, just dissolved. It melted away into the simple, primal gesture of a man giving a woman his warmth. I looked up at him. He was only in his shirt sleeves now, but the wind did not seem to touch him. His eyes were fixed on my face, watching as I huddled into the heat of his coat. A spark, bright and hot, flashed deep in my chest. It was not a storm. It was not a fire. It was a single, defiant flash of lightning against a dark sky, a new horizon. He did not move. He did not touch me again. He just watched me wear his coat. And in the wild, cold wind, on the bridge that connected his past to my present, I was finally, truly warm. The Clean Nova plant was not just on the edge of Renfield County. It felt like it was on the edge of the world. It was a fortress of corrugated steel and chain-link fencing, topped with razor wire and bathed in the harsh, sodium-orange glare of industrial floodlights. This was not a place for sorting bottles and cans. This was a place for making things disappear. "Cameras every 50 feet, Tino murmured, his voice low as he drove the nondescript sedan past the main gate for a preliminary pass. "Infrared sensors on the perimeter fence. See the domes on the roof. Those are automated drones. And—" He pointed to a sign. "K9 Patrol on duty. Dogs, all private contracts. This place is a civilian black site." My heart, which had been a cold knot of dread, now felt like a hummingbird trapped in my ribs. "How are we getting in? You are not going to fight all of them, are you?" He looked at me, and that rare, almost smile touched his lips. "You watch too many movies. Lila, you do not fight a fortress. You walk in the front door." He had made one more stop after the bridge, at a 24-hour industrial supply depot in a part of Flint water I had never seen. He had emerged with 2 hard hats, 2 high-visibility vests, and a clipboard. Now, he pulled into a dark service road half a mile away and handed me my costume. A bright yellow vest that smelled like new plastic and a white hard hat. He put on an orange vest and a blue hard hat. "I am the new night shift captain, here for a spot check," he said, his voice taking on a rougher, more authoritative edge. He looked the part. "You are my safety intern. You do not speak. You look scared of everything, and you write things down on this clipboard. Got it." "Look scared," I repeated, my voice hollow. "I can do that." We did not climb the fence. We drove right up to the main security gate. A heavy man in a ballistic vest stepped out of the guardhouse, his hand resting on his sidearm. Tino rolled down the window and hit him with a blast of pure, impatient authority. "Tino Bianchetti, Regional Supervisor, this is Hart, Safety Intern. We are here for the spot check on the Series 4 sorters. You are late shutting them down. We are burning daylight, and I am not paying my crew overtime." The guard looked confused. Supervisor Nobody radioed it in. "That is the point of a spot check, son," Tino snapped, tapping the clipboard. "You think I call ahead? Who is your foreman, Gallo Get Gallo, on the radio? Tell him Bianchetti is at the gate and he has got about 30 seconds before I write him up for a major violation." The name Gallo, whether real or fake, did the trick. The guard's face paled. He scrambled back into his hut, spoke urgently into a mic, and a second later, the heavy steel gate began to grind open. "Keep your head down," Tino muttered to me. "Look at the clipboard. Look impressed by the machinery." We walked through the yard. The place was a deafening roar of machinery. Trucks beeped as they reversed, and giant magnetic cranes lifted and dropped shipping containers with earth-shaking thuds. The K9 units were in their kennels, barking and snarling at us as we passed. The air smelled of diesel, ozone, and wet garbage. Tino walked like he owned the place, pointing at various infractions. That is a level 2 violation. Write that down. Heart fluid leak by Unit 9. Unacceptable. I scribbled a meaningless line on the paper. He led us away from the main sorting line, toward a restricted area marked with bright red signs, sealed container zone, authorized personnel only. This is our area, he said, loud enough for a nearby worker to hear. We checked the seals. He walked right up to a massive 20-foot-long container. It was painted white, with the same 5-star Clean Nova logo I had seen at the museum. The doors were not just locked, they were sealed with a heavy-duty, numbered steel bolt, the kind used for international shipping. Tino examined the seal. Seal number is off the manifest, he said, mostly to himself. He pulled a pair of bolt cutters from a nearby toolkit left behind by a careless worker and with a grunt, snapped the thick steel seal. The alarm should have blared. It did not. They run on a pressure-sensitive network, he murmured, pulling the heavy door open. As long as we do not break the electronic contact, the system thinks it is still locked. We have maybe 10 minutes. He pulled a flashlight from his pocket and stepped into the darkness. I followed, my boots crunching on the floor. It was not a garbage container. It was a vault. It was filled with smaller, sealed crates, all stacked neatly. This was the specialty waste. This was the stuff Dagger Creek did not want anyone to find. Look for a crate marked recycled glass or silica, Tino said, his flashlight beam cutting through the dark. It will be heavy, but it will sound hollow. We split up. I was scrambling over a stack of wooden crates labeled lithium-ion when I saw it, tucked in the back corner, a black reinforced Pelican case, large enough to hold a microwave. It was stenciled in white hazard, brittle glass, handle with care. It was the only case that was not dusty. Tino, I whispered, over here. He was at my side in a second. He shone his light on the case. It had a complex digital keypad on the front. That is not glass, he said. It is the safe, is not it? It is. He ran his fingers along the edge of the case. And it is warm. He shone the light on the keypad. A small red light was blinking, and beneath it, a tiny, glowing LCD screen. It was a timer. My blood evaporated. It was not counting up. It was counting down. 000014. 14 seconds, I breathed, the words catching in my throat. Tino did not curse. He did not move. His voice was absolute. Arctic calm. Lila, look at me. I tore my eyes from the countdown. 12 seconds. That is a pressure chip, rigged to the lid. We do not have time to guess the code. We have to cut the power. He pulled a multi-tool from his pocket and snapped open a small, sharp blade. He sliced the rubber casing around the keypad and ripped it off the front. A tangle of wires spilled out, red, blue, green, yellow. 10 seconds. It is a standard thermal detonator, he said, his voice as calm as if he were ordering coffee. They want to destroy the contents. The power source will be the cold wire, the one designed to look inert. 8 seconds. Which one is it? I whispered, my whole body shaking. The blue one, he said, or the green one. Cut the wrong one. The circuit completes, it blows. 7 seconds. My hand was shaking so badly I could not even point. I cannot, Tino grabbed my wrist. His grip was like steel. Stop. Breathe. He forced my gaze to his. His eyes were black, bottomless, but completely steady. Do not shake. Lila, your eyes are steadier than my hands. You studied design. You see the details. Which one is it? 5 seconds. I looked. The green wire was neatly soldered. The blue one, tucked underneath, was slightly frayed at the connection, as if it had been attached in a hurry. It was the one meant to fail. It was the one channeling the power. The blue one, and I said, my voice clear. It is the blue one. 3 seconds. Good girl, he murmured. He did not cut it. He put the blade to the wire, looked at me, and said, together. He pressed the blade, and I pushed his hand. Click. The tiny, glowing numbers on the timer vanished. The red light went out. Silence. I fell back against the crates, my legs giving out completely. I was gasping, pulling in air that smelled like dust and metal. Tino let out a single, sharp breath. "You did good, Lila." And then the world exploded in sound. Whoop, whoop, whoop. Red lights flashed outside the container, painting the interior in strokes of blood, the main alarm. "They did not like us cutting the power," Tino said grimly. He grabbed my arm and hauled me to my feet. "They know we are here." He peered out the crack in the container door. I looked over his shoulders. The yard was in chaos. Men were shouting, but it was not the Clean Nova workers. 3 black, armor-plated pickup trucks, the kind used for urban assault, were screeching to a halt, cutting off the main gate. Men in tactical gear were piling out. Dagger Creek, they were not here for a shakedown. They were here for a war. "They were waiting," Tino hissed. "This was a trap. They were waiting for me." He slammed the container doors shut, plunging us into darkness. "This way, back." He pulled me over the crates to the very back of the container. He shone his light on the steel wall. There is always another way out. He ran his hands along a seam, a maintenance hatch. He found the latches and threw them. The hatch opened onto a narrow catwalk, 30 feet above a massive, churning pit of scrap metal. "Go!" he yelled, pushing me out. We ran. The alarm was deafening. A shot rang out, a sharp crack, and a bullet sparked off the railing just inches from my head. Tino grabbed me, spinning me around and pulling me flat against a massive, vibrating wall. It was a giant industrial wind barrier. He pressed his body against mine, shielding me, his chest hard against my back. "They have us pinned," he yelled over the noise. "What do we do?" I cried, my face pressed into the rough fabric of his vest. He put his mouth to my ear. His breath was hot against my skin, a stark contrast to the cold metal at my back. "Trust me," he whispered. "Close your eyes, and whatever you do, do not let go." I did not have time to answer. I just squeezed my eyes shut and clutched his shirt. He grabbed a heavy chain dangling from the wall, a manual release. "Now," he roared. He pulled the chain. It was not a door that opened, it was the floor. A massive blast gate opened beneath us. A hurricane of hot, pressurized air, smelling of burnt oil, shot up from the tunnels below, a deafening roar that swallowed the alarms. We did not fall. We were blasted outward, off the catwalk, into the open air. We were falling. I screamed, but he just held me tighter. We hit something hard, a steep, sliding pile of scrap. We tumbled, metal groaning and scraping, down, down, down into the dark. We landed with a bone-jarring thud on the wet ground of the scrapyard. We were outside the main fence. "Run!" he panted. We scrambled through the mud and wreckage, Tino pulling me by the hand until we reached a line of discarded shipping containers, waiting to be processed. He wrenched one open. In. He half threw me inside and slid in after, pulling the heavy door shut until only a crack of light remained. The world went silent, save for the sound of the distant alarms and our own ragged, desperate breathing. We were in a container filled with raw lumber. The sharp, clean scent of fresh-cut pine was overwhelming, a bizarre comfort in the middle of the chaos. I slid down the wooden wall until I was sitting on the floor, and then the shaking started. It was not just my hands, it was my arms, my legs, my teeth. My body was convulsing with adrenaline and terror. I could not stop it. I tried to speak. "Shh," Tino said. His voice was soft. He was crouched in front of me, just a dark, powerful shape in the sliver of light. He sat down opposite me, close, our knees almost touching. He did not grab me. He did not try to stop the shaking. He just waited. I wrapped my arms around myself, but the cold was deep inside me. He reached out slowly, his hand moving through the darkness, and he did not touch my face or my arm. He just gently, firmly, placed his hand on my shoulder, his thumb resting against the side of my neck. His skin was warm, the contact was solid, a simple, grounding pressure. "It is over," he said. "You are safe. Are you okay?" I looked up at him. His face was in shadow, but I could see the intensity in his eyes, fixed on mine. I could not find my voice. I just nodded, a jerky, unconvincing movement. He did not move his hand. His thumb stroked my neck just once, a slow, calming gesture that sent a jolt straight through me, warmer and more potent than the adrenaline. "You were good, Lila," he whispered. "You were strong." I was terrified. I breathed, the words finally coming. "I know," he said. "So was I." I stared at him, at this man of absolute control. This mafia boss who had just admitted fear. The shaking in my limbs began to ease, replaced by a new, different kind of tremor, one that started in my stomach. He leaned forward, just an inch. The movement was a question. My breath hitched. I did not pull away. He leaned closer. I could feel the heat radiating from his body. The scent of bergamot and steel was mixed with the clean, sharp smell of the pine. He watched my eyes. He was giving me every chance to say no, to turn my head. I did not. I raised my chin just slightly, a silent yes. His lips touched mine. It was not a desperate, frantic kiss. It was slow. It was deliberate. It was a discovery. His lips were firm and warm, and they tasted faintly of the coffee we had shared hours, or maybe a lifetime, ago. It was a question, and I answered by leaning into him, my hand coming up to rest on his chest. I could feel his heart, a strong, steady drumbeat beneath my palm, hammering in time with my own. He deepened the kiss, his other hand coming up to cup my face, his thumb tracing my jawline. It was not the kiss of a man taking. It was the kiss of a man who was, finally, allowing himself to want. It was gentle, and it was devastatingly sure. My shaking stopped, replaced by a spreading liquid heat. He broke the kiss slowly, resting his forehead against mine. We breathed the same air, his hand still on my shoulder, mine still on his chest. His heart was no longer steady. It was racing, just like mine. He had not used force. He had not taken control. He had asked, and he had waited. In the dark, surrounded by the smell of pine, with the distant shouts of angry men outside, I had never felt safer in my life. He moved slightly, just to shift his weight and his coat. The one he had given me on the bridge, the one I was still wearing, fell open. He took the edges of the heavy wool and gently, carefully, wrapped it around both of us, pulling me closer. It became our blanket, a shared darkness, a fortress for two. We did not speak for the rest of the night, after the container, after that kiss. Tino drove us to a part of the city I did not even know existed. We ended up at St. Ashby's, a deconsecrated church in the old garment district. Its stained glass windows were boarded up, but the inside was dry and surprisingly warm. He had a cot and a small generator set up in the former rectory. This was his true safe house, his blind spot. He had left me with a change of clothes, a simple black sweatshirt and pants, things he must have kept stashed here, and his heavy wool coat. He had left for hours, taking the reinforced case from Clean Nova with him, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the lingering taste of his kiss. When he returned, the sun was just beginning to seep through the cracks in the boarded windows. He was carrying a laptop in the case. He set them both on the dusty altar. "Time to see what they were willing to kill for," he said. His voice was all business again, the man from the bridge gone, replaced by the man who ran the night. He pried the case open. It was not money, it was not gold. It was a single, matte black hard drive, nestled in custom-cut foam. Tino plugged it into the laptop. The drive hummed to life. There was only one folder. He clicked it. The screen filled with thumbnails, dozens of them. They were not documents. They were video files, time-stamped, labeled with codes. He clicked the first one. A grainy black and white video played. A man in a suit, the same suit worn by the fake UCA inspectors, was sliding a thick manila envelope across a desk to another man. A logo was visible on the wall behind them, Dagger Creek Syndicate. Tino clicked another file, a different meeting. This time, the man receiving the envelope was wearing a suit with a lapel pin. The pin was the fake, aggressive eagle of the Federal Organized Crime Directorate. "It is a ledger," I whispered, my hand covering my mouth. "A video ledger." "Bribery," Tino said, his voice a low growl. "Every payoff, every exchange." He clicked another file. It was not a video, it was a document, a list. "And there is the why," he said. It was a list of charitable foundations. The same tech fund from the gala was at the top. Next to each name was a dollar amount and a percentage. "They are not just taking money," I said, understanding. "They are washing it. Dagger Creek steals the money. The fake FOCD provides the federal muscle to cover it up. And the charities, they are the washing machine. They take in the dirty donations and pay out a clean percentage to Dagger Creek and the FOCD. This was not a shakedown. This was an enterprise. The entire city was being run by a shadow government. And we had just stolen their accounting books. "This is it," I said, a wild, terrified hope rising in me. "We have them. We can give this to the real police, to the media." Before Tino could answer, his phone buzzed. Not a call, an alert. Then another and another. He glanced at his screen, and his face hardened into a mask of cold fury. He turned the phone and showed it to me. It was the Grey Point Gazette's website. A breaking news banner splashed across the top in red. Museum Heist Insider identified FOCD issues. Federal summons for Lila Hart. My picture was underneath it, not the grainy security footage this time, but my employee ID photo, the one Henderson had in my file. I looked young, hopeful, and now I looked like a wanted criminal. "The Federal Organized Crime Directorate has identified Lila Hart, 26, as a primary conspirator," Tino read aloud, his voice dripping with contempt. "She is considered a person of interest in a wide-reaching racketeering case and is believed to have conspired with elements of known organized crime." "Known organized crime," I repeated, the blood draining from my face. They mean you." "They are not just controlling the story anymore," Tino said, snapping the laptop shut. "They are writing the ending. They are painting you as the villain, and me as your monster. They have issued a federal summons. That means every real cop in the city is now looking for you." The tabloids were worse. Museum Girl and the Mob Boss, Janitor of Crime. They had found pictures of me from high school. They were painting me as a greedy, stupid girl who had fallen for a gangster. "You cannot stay here," Tino said, his voice flat and final. "Ashby's is a blind spot, but not for this long. Not when the whole city is looking. So what we run? We move. I have other places, deeper, off the grid. You will be a ghost." He started packing the hard drive into a bag. "No." He stopped. "Lila, this is not a discussion. You are a federal fugitive." "I am a fake federal fugitive," I snapped, the injustice of it burning like acid. "I am not running. I ran from the museum. I ran from my apartment. I ran from the scrapyard. I am done running. I am not going to be a ghost in your system, Tino." "And the alternative? You walk into a police station with that," he pointed to the hard drive. "They will arrest you, seize the drive as evidence, and it will be lost in an evidence locker by noon. You will be in a cell, and Dagger Creek will have you dead by nightfall. That is not strength. Lila, that is suicide." "So what do we do?" I yelled, my voice echoing in the empty church. "What is the move, Tino? Because I will not hide in a cellar while they destroy my name." The heavy oak door of the rectory creaked open. A woman stood there. She was in her 40s, with sharp, intelligent eyes and hair pulled back in a severe bun. She wore a worn-out blazer and carried a leather briefcase that had seen better decades. "The move," she said, her voice crisp and clear, "is that we fight back, but we do it smart." Tino nodded to her. "Lila Hart, this is Trina Quill. She's a community lawyer, the best in this city." "I am the cheapest," Trina Quill corrected. walking in and placing her briefcase on the altar. Tino called me. She looked at me, her gaze assessing, not unkind. "You look like hell, kid." "I feel like hell," I said. "Good, we can use that." Trina opened her briefcase. "Tino told me what you found. A video ledger. That is dynamite." "So we release it," my guy said. "No," Trina said, her voice sharp. "We cannot legally. That hard drive is fruit of the poisonous tree. You obtained it illegally. The moment we release it, any decent lawyer will have it thrown out of court. The FOCD will claim it was fabricated, a deep fake. We have one shot at this, and we have to make it clean." "How?" Tino asked. "We need to authenticate it," Trina said. "We need to prove that drive came from a Dagger Creek system. We need its digital fingerprint. We need—" "The access logs," Tino finished, his eyes lighting up. "Exactly. The server that hard drive was stolen from or copied from will have a record of the transfer, a log showing that this data, at this time, was moved. That is the piece of evidence that makes the drive admissible. That is the piece that makes the story undeniable." "So where is the server?" I asked. Tino and Trina looked at each other. "Black Banyan," Tino said. "The private security firm?" Trina confirmed. "They are the ones who installed the system at Clean Nova. They are the ones who ran the security for the gala. They are not just contractors. They are the FOCD's tech division. Their central server is in the Banyan Tower downtown." "A fortress," Tino said, his face grim. "Worse than Clean Nova." "So, we just lost," I said, the hope draining out of me. "No," I said, the word coming out before I even thought. They both looked at me. "My scholarship," I said, my mind racing, the old, forgotten parts of my brain clicking to life. It was for stage design, set building, lighting plots, rigging, controlling the illusion. That is what my professor used to say. Tino's expression was intense. "What are you saying?" "I am saying," I said, walking over to a long, dusty table, "that you do not fight a fortress. You walk in the front door, or, in this case, you roll." I grabbed a piece of charcoal from a burnt-out fireplace. I unrolled a long sheet of butcher paper that Tino had brought with a bag of food. "The Banyan Tower," I said, my hands moving, sketching. "I have been in their lobby. I prepped a corporate lunch there 2 months ago. I know the layout. The elevators are here. The main security desk is here. It is a fishbowl, all glass." "You cannot get past the desk," Tino said. "I do not have to," I said, sketching faster. "I am not the one going in. A prop is—" I drew a square. The third-floor offices are cleaned by a night crew, and Black Banyan, being cheap, does not use union labor. They use autonomous floor-cleaning units, like giant Roombas. They run on a preset track, every night from 2 a.m. to 4 a.m. They dock here. I circled a spot in a janitorial closet, right next to the server room. I looked up. Tino was watching me, a slow, deep appreciation dawning in his eyes. "We do not go in," I said, my voice strong. "The machine does. We rig it. We get it to dock, patch it into their server, and download the log. It is a Trojan horse, on wheels, and automated." "That is a good plan," Trina Quill said, a small smile on her face. "But it is just a drawing. You need access. You need to get inside, get the machine, rig it, and put it back, all without being seen." "She will not be alone," Ventino said. He looked at my drawing. "This is the what. I will provide the how. You need a backstage crew, Lila, and I have the best in the city." "Who?" "You need to get in the elevator without a key card," he said. "I have a guy, my contact in the elevator repair union. He can put the Banyan Tower's main lift on service mode for exactly 5 minutes. You need to get past the loading dock. The milkman who delivers to their cafeteria at 3 a.m. owes me a favor. He will hold the door. The night security guard, he is retired. But his nephew works the desk now, and he still uses his uncle's login to clock in. We have eyes inside." He was smiling. "You are building the set, Lila. I am just filling the stage." It was a crazy, impossible plan. It was the only plan we had. We were interrupted by a sharp knock on the rectory door. One of Tino's men, one of the refrigerators from the museum, stepped in. He whispered something in Tino's ear. The smile on Tino's face did not just fade, it vanished, replaced by a coldness that chilled the entire room. "Get Trina out of here," Tino said to his man. "Now, take her through the tunnel." "Tino, what is it?" I asked, my heart seizing. "Is it Dagger Creek? Are they here?" "No," he said, his voice terrifyingly quiet. He waited until Trina and his man had disappeared down the cellar stairs. He turned to me. "My network, my eyes and ears, the milkman, the elevator tech, the infrastructure of the invisible." "What about it?" "It has a crack in it," he said. "I just got word from my man at the taxi dispatch, Rowan Pike." "Who is Rowan Pike?" Was my man inside the Dagger Creek crew. My insider, he is the one who told me they were sloppy. He is the one who confirmed the Clean Nova location." "That is good, right?" "He also just told Dagger Creek where we are," and Tino said. "He just sold us out. He sold you out. He was playing both sides. He set the trap at Clean Nova. He knew I would go. He knew I would take you." St. Ashby's, our blind spot, suddenly felt like a coffin. Tino looked at me, his face carved from ice. "They are on their way. We have maybe 10 minutes. He grabbed the bag with the hard drive. "But we have a bigger problem. Lila." He stood in front of me, his gaze so intense it felt like a physical weight. "Rowan Pike. He's one of mine. He broke the code. My code." "What? What are you going to do?" "That is the question," Tino said, his voice raw. "My religion says I handle him. I make him an example, so no one ever thinks of crossing me again. But if I do that, if I do what I must do, you will see me. Not the man on the bridge, not the man in the container. You will see the monster they write about in the papers, and you will never look at me the same way again." He took a step closer. "But if I spare him, if I let him run, to prove to you that I am not that man, he will not stop. He will hunt you, and he will find you, and you will die." He put his hand on my arm, his grip desperate. "So I am asking you, Lila, do I become the monster and keep you safe, or do I stay the man you kissed and let you die?" My entire world narrowed to his eyes. This was the true test. Not the bombs, not the guns. This... I pulled my arm from his grasp. I stood tall, my voice shaking but clear. "You do not get to make that choice," I said. "You do not get to be the monster, and you do not let me die. You are wrong. Tino, there is a third option." "What?" "You stop protecting me and you start using me. He set a trap for you." "Good." "We set one for him. Put me in the plan. I am not the prop. I am not the damsel. I am the stage manager. And I am done being hunted." I looked him dead in the eye. "I will save myself." The Banyan Tower was a needle of black glass and cold steel, stabbing the night sky. It was 2:37 in the morning. "Elevator 6 is now in manual service mode," Tino's voice murmured in my earpiece. "You have exactly 5 minutes to get from the loading bay to the third-floor janitorial." Tino was already inside, dressed in the dark blue overalls of an elevator technician, his face hidden by a baseball cap. He was the ghost in the machine. I was the bait. The milkman, a grizzled old man who looked like he had seen everything, held the loading dock door for me. "Good luck, kid," he whispered, and I wheeled my prop through. It was a state-of-the-art autonomous floor cleaner, the kind that hummed quietly and smelled of ozone. It was identical to the ones Black Banyan used. Tino's people had acquired it, I did not ask how. Tucked inside its chassis, where the cleaning solution should have been, was a dummy hard drive. The real ledger, the drive from Clean Nova, was in a shielded bag strapped to Tino's ankle. My job was not to plant the drive, it was to steal the proof. I made the elevator with 30 seconds to spare. The doors chimed open on the third floor. It was silent, dark. The air was frigid, humming with the sound of servers. Tino was waiting in the shadows of the janitorial closet. "The server room is behind this wall," he whispered, pointing. The air duct is the only way in that is not alarmed. It is a straight shot, 20 feet. And Rowan, I whispered back, my heart a cold stone. He is in the building. My source on the taxi dispatch confirmed he arrived 10 minutes ago. He is hunting. He thinks he is the predator, and we are the prey. Let him. Tino gave me a small, powerful laptop. Go. Climbing into the duct was cold. The metal was smooth, and I moved like a shadow. Just as my old stage managing professor had taught, move in the dark, be the silence. I emerged into the server room. It was a cathedral of data, rows and rows of black towers, pulsing with small blue and green lights. The noise was a steady, deafening whoosh of fans. I found the main console. This was my move. I plugged in a USB drive and ran the program I had written, a simple loop that would freeze the system's external security sensors for maintenance, tricking them into thinking the system was down for a routine check. A digital clock appeared on the screen. System integrity check 1800. 18 minutes. I plugged my small, high-speed thumb drive into the main port. I located the access logs for the Clean Nova transfer. I hit copy. A new progress bar appeared. Estimated time 15 minutes. I went back to the duct, gave Tino the signal. He wheeled the autonomous cleaner in, the Trojan horse, and parked it near the server rack as if it were just waiting for its next cycle. It looked perfect. Now we wait. I breathed. No, a voice said from the main doorway. My blood turned to ice. Rowan Pike stood there, silhouetted against the hallway light. The door had opened without a sound. He had an override card. He held a gun, and it was pointed directly at my chest. You are good, Lila, he said, stepping into the room. The blue server lights painted his face in cold relief. The stage manager turned thief. It is a good story. But Tino, he always was too sentimental. He gestured with the gun, the drive, the real one, the one from Clean Nova. Where is it? I do not know what you're talking about, I stammered. Stop. He cocked the hammer. The click was deafening. I know he would not let it out of his sight. Is it on you, or is it in your little toy? He nodded at the floor cleaner. From the ceiling, a shadow detached itself. Tino dropped from an open duct panel directly behind Rowan. Landing as silently as a cat, he had his own gun, level, and aimed at Rowan's head. Let her go, Rowan. Tino's voice was flat, dead. Rowan laughed, a short, sharp bark. He did not turn, and he just grabbed my arm, yanking me in front of him, pressing the cold muzzle of his gun to my temple. Drop it, Tino, he snarled, or I blow her pretty, stage-designing head all over your precious servers. You think I'm afraid of you? You are soft. You always were. You should have killed me at St. Ashby's. Tino did not move. His face was a mask of pure, controlled rage. His finger was tight on the trigger. I could see the knuckle turn white. This was the moment, the monster or the man. It is me you want. Rowan, Tino said, his voice a low negotiation. Let her walk. You and me. We finish this. There is nothing to finish, Rowan spat. I win. You lose. Now, the drive. Where is it? Tino's eyes met mine. He was stuck. He could not shoot. He could not move. The pact of protection had become a cage. Rowan was focused entirely on Tino. He was watching the man, not the woman. He had made a fatal mistake. Okay, I sobbed, letting my body go limp, faking a collapse. Okay, please, do not hurt me. It is in my pocket. My pocket. I was wearing the janitorial jumpsuit Tino had gotten me. The pockets were deep. Attached to the belt loop was a heavy ring of prop keys, old-fashioned brass keys I had insisted on as part of my costume. Rowan kept the gun on me but loosened his grip slightly, allowing me to reach for my pocket. Get it? Slowly. My hand closed around the heavy key ring. I am trying. I sniffled. And then I let the key ring drop. It did not just fall. It landed on the slick, raised composite floor with a loud, metallic clatter and skidded directly at Rowan's feet. It was a stage manager's trick, a sudden noise, a distraction. Rowan reacted exactly as I knew he would. He flinched, his eyes darting down to the sound. He instinctively took half a step back. His foot landed on the smooth, polished brass keys. He did not just slip. His feet went out from under him. He yelped, his arms windmilling. He stumbled backward, onto a section of the floor that was not solid. It was a heavy-duty safety grate designed to catch falling equipment. Rowan crashed onto the grate with a groan. His hand, the one holding the gun, flew open in surprise. The gun sailed through the air, hit the edge of the grate and fell, clattering down into the dark, bottomless space beneath the server room's raised floor. It was gone. For 1 second, there was absolute silence. Then the alarms blared. Intrusion detected. Floor 3, lockdown initiated. Red lights began to strobe. Heavy steel doors began to thud, shut down the hallway. "The download," I yelled. I ran to the console. 98%. "Lila, we have to go." Tino grabbed my arm. "No." I yanked my arm free. 99%. Rowan was scrambling to his feet, his face a mask of pure hate. "Download complete." I ripped the thumb drive from the port. Rowan lunged at me. Tino intercepted him, hitting him with a brutal, calculating force. Not a killing blow, but a strategic one. Tino drove his shoulder into Rowan's solar plexus, then brought his fist down on the man's collarbone. I heard a sharp crack. Rowan screamed and collapsed. "The roof!" Tino yelled. He grabbed me, and we ran, leaving the Trojan horse, the fake drive, and the groaning traitor behind as bait. We burst onto the rooftop just as the entire building's security system came online. The night air was cold, stinging my lungs. Then I heard it, the whump, whump, whump of a helicopter. It was not the police. It was a sleek, black Augusta, the kind private security firms used. It rose up from the side of the building, its spotlight blinding us. "This is Black Banyan Security. Stay where you are. You are trespassing." "They are not trying to arrest us," Tino shouted over the roar, pulling me toward the far edge of the roof. "They are trying to contain us." The side door of the helicopter slid open. Men in tactical gear. They were not aiming rifles. They were aiming crowd control launchers. A series of loud thwacks echoed across the roof. Something hard and fast slammed into the concrete wall next to me. Rubber bullets, designed to incapacitate, not kill. They wanted the ledger, and they wanted us alive. "They are trying to take us," I screamed. "They are not taking you," Tino snarled. He had spotted what he was looking for, a window washing maintenance line. Its heavy-duty cable spooled in a box on the roof's edge. Another volley of shots. Tino grabbed me, shoving me behind a large air conditioning unit. The thwacks hit his back. He grunted, his whole body tensing. But he did not fall. He was a solid wall of muscle and will, shielding me. He unspooled the line, looped it, and clipped a heavy carabiner to his own harness. "They want us alive, good. It makes them slow." He grabbed me, clipping me to his own harness, strapping me to his chest. "Hold on, and do not look down." He took 2 steps back, then ran, launching us both off the side of the 30-story building. I screamed. The city lights rushed up at us, a dizzying, terrifying blur. The wind tore the air from my lungs. We were falling, then sliding, the cable zipping through the harness with a high-pitched scream of metal. We landed hard on the concrete embankment of the Gray River, collapsing in a heap. The helicopter's spotlight was sweeping the sky above us, but we were under the bridge, lost in the shadows. "In here," Tino panted, pulling me into a low, dark concrete tunnel, a fiber-optic cable vault. The sound of dripping water was the only thing I could hear. It was pitch black, and it smelled of damp earth and rust. Tino slumped against the wall, breathing heavily. "Tino," I said, my voice trembling. "Tino, are you hit?" I fumbled for my phone, turning on its flashlight. His face was pale, beaded with sweat. His tactical overalls were torn at the shoulder. It was not a bullet wound, one of the rubber rounds or a ricochet, had torn through the fabric and his flesh. It was a deep, jagged laceration, and it was bleeding. A lot. "Oh, God," I whispered. I ripped off the sleeve of my jumpsuit, wadding it into a thick pad. "Press this, hard." He hissed as I pressed the makeshift bandage to the wound. You did not shoot him," I said, my voice shaking as I worked. "Back in the server room. You had the shot. You did not take it." "He had you," Tino breathed, his head lolling back against the cold, wet concrete. His eyes were closed. "I could not risk it." "You hesitated." I insisted. "You were going to talk him down. You chose." He opened his eyes. They were dark, filled with a pain that was not just from his shoulder. "I did not hesitate, Lila." "I waited. I saw your hand go to your pocket. I saw you had a plan." I finished tying the bandage, my hands slick with his blood. I looked at him, at this impossible man who was bleeding in a tunnel for me. "You need to trust me more," I whispered, the words fierce, tears stinging my eyes. "I'm not just something for you to protect. I am not a prop." He held my gaze, the small light from my phone catching the exhaustion in his face. "I am learning," he said. My hand was still on the knot of the bandage, on his shoulder. I was shaking. He slowly, painfully lifted his own hand and covered mine. He did not say thank you. He did not make a promise. He just held my hand, his grip weak but firm. The fractured trust, the question of the monster. It did not matter. It was mended by a simple, silent act, not an oath, not a vow. Just being there together in the dark. When the 91st minute had ticked over and the game was not lost, we made it back to St. Ashby's just before dawn. The adrenaline from the tower and the escape had worn off, leaving behind the cold, metallic ache of Tino's blood on my hands. He sat on the cot, his jaw tight, while Trina Quill, who had returned as silently as she had left, stitched the gash in his shoulder with practiced, steady hands. She had the pragmatism of someone who had seen worse. I held the thumb drive. It was warm. It felt impossibly heavy, a small piece of plastic that weighed as much as the entire city. "We have it," I said, my voice hoarse. "The access log, the proof." Tino nodded, his eyes dark with pain. "They have the fake drive. Rowan will deliver it to his masters at Dagger Creek. It will buy us time, but not much." Trina tied off the suture with a sharp tug. "It buys us until tomorrow night, that is all." She began cleaning her instruments. "We have the key, Lila. But we cannot just walk up to the Gray Point Police Department. The FOCD's rot is deep. We hand this to the wrong captain, and we will be in a ditch before sunset. The mainstream news is still running your face as wanted. They are owned. We have to bypass the official system." Tino looked at me. He was waiting. The man who gave orders, who ran the night, was waiting for my call, my choice, my plan. The power in the room had shifted, quietly in that dark cable vault. "So we do not use the official system," I said. My voice was surprisingly steady. "We use the real one, the one they cannot control." I looked at Trina. "You have contacts, the ones who do not have corporate sponsors, the Gray Point Free Press, the local church councils, the neighborhood watch groups, the people who are actually on the streets." "I can get them in a room," Trina said, "but they are journalists and priests. Kid, not soldiers." "I do not need soldiers," I said. I turned to Tino. "I need your people, the invisible ones, the ones you told me about." "The infrastructure," he said, his voice a low rumble. "Yes, the Night Drivers Alliance, the City Cleaners Guild, every late-night cabbie, every delivery guy, every person who sees this city when it is honest." "What is the plan?" "Lila," he asked. "What is the stage?" "Tomorrow night," I said. The plan building itself in my mind, the old skills of stage managing, clicking into place, the North Star Pier. They are hosting another gala, the Community Rebuilding Fund. It is another one of their laundry operations. It is arrogant and it is in the open. "It is a fortress," Tino countered. "Black Banyan is running security. Dagger Creek will be the muscle. After the Banyan Tower, they will be hunting you. It is a suicide run." "It is not a fortress if it is surrounded," I said. I am not going to sneak in. We are going to build a timeline. Trina, using the video ledger and this access log, we are going to prove, step by step, how they stole the money, and we are going to broadcast it on every screen at that gala. We are going to create a safe corridor of witnesses, an army of 100 cell phone cameras, all pointed at the stage. Tino stood, testing his shoulder. He walked over to me, the man who had shielded me with his body, who had bled for me. You are painting the target on your back brighter than the moon. Lila, you will be the spearhead, the only one they want. I know, I said, meeting his gaze, and I need you to be the shield, but not for me, for the people. I need you to step back. He searched my face, seeing the absence of fear, the new cold resolve. He had put it there. I will be your shadow, he said, his voice heavy with a promise. My men will hold the perimeter. We will be ghosts. I will not intervene. He paused. But I need one condition. What? He pulled a small, high-intensity LED flashlight from his supply bag and pressed it into my hand. No phones, no radios, just this. You are the stage manager. You control the lights. If you are in a position you cannot escape. If the plan breaks, you flash this twice. 2 sharp flashes. That is the signal. And I will burn that pier to the ground to get you out. I will unleash everything. But until I see those 2 lights, you are on your own. 2 flashes, I repeated, closing my hand around the cold metal. A full intervention, understood. That afternoon, he took me to the roof of a safe house, an old apartment building in Hallow Ridge that he owned, one he kept empty. The roof overlooked the bay, and the wind was cold and clean, carrying the scent of salt. It was the first quiet moment we had shared. We sat on the brick ledge, the city glittering below us, a sleeping beast. I used to prep vegetables in a kitchen down there, I said, pointing. I have never seen the city from this high up. It is just a different perspective, Tino said. His voice was softer here, the sharp edges worn down by the wind. You see the patterns, who is moving where, who owns what. A small, rusty laugh escaped my throat. You sound like a king. He smiled, a true, slow smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes. I'm just a man who moves boxes, Lila. And I'm just a woman who cleans floors, I replied. Our hands were resting on the ledge between us, inches apart. He did not reach for me. He just covered my hand with his. It was not the desperate passion of the container or the pained grip in the tunnel. It was a simple, warm, possessive weight, a statement of fact. I am here. You are not alone. We sat in silence for a long time, watching the gulls circle, his hand over mine. Before we left, I had to do one thing. Tino found a pen and a piece of paper. My brother, Milo, I said, and my mom, Dagger Creek. They are safe, he said, cutting me off. I moved them 3 days ago, a vacation on the coast, funded by a surprise bonus from the museum. They are 100 miles away, and they have 2 of my best men with them. They are not in this. The relief that washed over me was so profound it made my knees weak. I wrote the note anyway, just in case. Milo, I am not missing. I am not in trouble. I am just fixing the lights on my life stage. Be proud of me. I love you. I gave it to Tino to hold on to. The city, however, did not stay quiet. Trina's contacts at the Free Press had started asking why the FOCD had no public charter. The whispers had begun. Dagger Creek, feeling the pressure, responded with a hammer. The threat spread through Tino's own network, delivered by the same cabbies and bartenders who fed him information. It was a public service announcement from the shadows. The North Star Pier is a Dagger Creek zone tomorrow night. Any civilian who shows up is considered an enemy. There will be a bloodbath. I looked at Tino. Will they come? The drivers, the cleaners. After a threat like that? They are terrified, Tino said, his face hard. But they are also angry. They are tired of being ghosts. They are tired of paying for protection from the very men who are hurting them. They just need a reason to stand up. Tino picked up his phone. He did not call his soldiers. He called Trina. "Trina," he said, his voice all business, "I am liquidating. 3 warehouses, off the Flintwater books. The deeds are in a holding company. I want you to transfer them. 1 to the South Gray Point Women's Shelter, 1 to the Dockworkers Relief Fund, and 1 to the Hallow Ridge Community Kitchen." I stared at him. These were his black assets, his hidden power. "They are anonymous donations," he continued, "but they come with a condition. I want all 3 organizations to set up emergency relief stations by the pier tomorrow night, food, water, and first aid. We create safe evacuation routes, managed by the community itself. Dagger Creek wants to threaten the people. The people are now organized. They have new fortresses." He hung up. He was giving away pieces of his empire, not for me, but because of what we had started. Trina met us one last time, in the cold, echoing bay of a delivery truck. She held up a thin file. "It is done. The timeline is built. The video ledger is synced frame by frame with your access logs. We have the audio from the FOCD's inspections, matched to the Dagger Creek bank transfers. It is airtight. The moment this goes public and a certified public notary signs off, the FOCD collapses. Black Banyan will be investigated for federal fraud. Dagger Creek loses its official cover. They are finished." "And if it does not work?" I asked, my voice small. Trina's face was stone. "If they stop you, if that data does not get out intact, then you are not a whistleblower. You are just Lila Hart, the fugitive, the girl who conspired with the mob. You will be the sacrifice. Lila, they will bury you so deep no one will ever find the body." I took the file, my entire life, my freedom. It all came down to one night, one stage. As Trina slipped away, I turned to Tino in the darkness of the truck. The fear was back, a cold serpent in my stomach. "I do not want to be a symbol, Tino," I whispered. "I am not brave. I am just a janitor. I am terrified. I just want this to be over. I just want to decide my own future, for once." He reached out, his hand resting on my shoulder, solid and warm in the cold. His gaze was so intense it felt like I could touch it. "That is what they are all afraid of. Lila," he said, his voice quiet. "A symbol. They can shoot a symbol. They can tear it down. But a single person who is tired of being invisible, a person who decides that is how you change the world, that is enough. That is enough to change this entire city." The North Star Pier was a stage set for a grand illusion. Chandeliers flown in for the night, hung from the steel girders, dripping crystal light onto a sea of tuxedos and evening gowns. A massive banner hung behind the podium, proclaiming the launch of the Gray Point Community Rebuilding Fund. It was all a lie, a beautiful, expensive lie. I was part of the crew, just another shadow in a black jumpsuit, my hair tucked under a baseball cap. My tool belt, however, held more than gaff tape. It held a small, high-powered live streaming device disguised as a pin spot light cluster. Tino was somewhere behind the scenes, a ghost in the stainless steel maze of the kitchen's logistics bay. His last words, whispered in the darkness of the truck, echoed in my ears. "Be the stage manager. Lila, I will be your shadow." 2 flashes. The pier was crawling with security, Black Banyan tactical gear, but with the fake FOCD eagle patch sewn onto their shoulders. They were scanning the crowd, but they were looking for intruders. They were not looking at the staff. I found my mark, a high gantry lighting scaffold to the left of the main stage. "Hey, you," a Black Banyan guard snapped. "That scaffold is locked." "The main cluster on grid C is flickering," I said, not looking at him. My voice a clipped, annoyed monotone I had learned from a dozen lighting directors. "Keen's podium light. You want him standing in the dark, I have to repatch it. I have 2 minutes." He grunted, annoyed, but waved me on. I climbed, hand over hand, the cold metal biting into my palms. Below me, the party was a murmur of clinking glasses and false laughter. I reached the gantry, 30 feet above the floor, and clipped myself in. I was alone, high in the darkness, a spider on a thread. Down on the stage, the MC, a local news anchor I knew was on Dagger Creek's payroll, stepped up to the podium. And now, he beamed, the man who is making all this possible, a true public servant, the director of the Federal Organized Crime Directorate, Mr. Adrian Keene. A man stood up. He was handsome, silver-haired, radiating a false, political warmth. He was the man from the video ledger, the one who took the envelopes, Adrian Keene. He walked to the podium and raised his champagne flute to a new gray point, a clean gray point. That was my cue. I clamped my device to the scaffold, aimed it at the two massive LED screens flanking the stage, and flipped the switch. Now, Trina, now! Across the street, in a rented office, Trina Quill hit enter. Keene's face on the giant screens did not just freeze, it was replaced. It was replaced by a grainy video of a UCA thug breaking a shopkeeper's window. The crowd murmured, confused. The MC tapped his microphone. Ladies and gentlemen, a slight technical ahem. Then the screen changed. A new video, Adrian Keene himself, in a quiet office, accepting a thick manila envelope from a Dagger Creek enforcer. A collective gasp sucked the air from the pier. The screen split. My timeline, the digital signatures, the bank transfers from the Community Relief Fund to a shell corporation in the Caymans, the audio file of Keene himself, the one Tino had found, laying out the money laundering scheme. It was all there. It was all public. Keene's face, no longer smiling, was a mask of pure, white-hot rage. "Cut the signal," he screamed at his security. "Cut it, find her. Find the source now." He pointed up, at the scaffolds. "Get her." Two FOCD men started for my gantry. But as they ran, a wall formed in front of them. A wall of stainless steel. The kitchen staff, the valets, the night cleaners, Tino's people. My people poured out from the service corridors. They were not fighting, they were just moving. They pushed a line of heavy, rolling hotboxes and bussing carts, creating a solid, impassable barrier between the stage and the exit, walling off Keene's men. It was a perfect, practiced maneuver, a wall of the invisible. It was the escape route they had built for me. I started to unclip, to climb down. Lila. The voice was not Keene's, it was Rowan Pike's. I froze. He was standing on the far side of the pier, near the kitchens, and he was not alone. He had his good arm, the one Tino had not broken, wrapped around the throat of a teenage boy. The boy was wearing a chef's apprentice jacket. My heart did not just drop, it stopped, it ceased to exist. "Milo," I breathed. Rowan had found him. Keene must have brought him. A secret insurance policy. From the kitchen doorway, Tino emerged. He had his gun in his hand, a sleek, black shape. He was 200 feet away, his body rigid, his line of sight clear. Rowan saw him. He grinned, a terrible, desperate grimace, and pulled Milo tighter, pressing the point of a knife to my brother's throat. "Go on, Tino," he shouted, his voice cracking with hysteria. "Take the shot. The new code. Let's see you protect her now. Let's see you shoot through the kid." Tino's arm was locked, his aim perfect, but he did not shoot. He could not. One tremor, one movement from Milo, and the bullet would hit my brother. He was frozen, the man of action, trapped by his own code. This was the moment. The plan was broken. I raised the small, high-intensity flashlight. I aimed it at Tino, at the kitchen shadows. I flashed it once, twice. The signal, full intervention. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then, from the city, came the sound of an orchestra. Not music, horns, dozens of them. The deep, bellowing air horns of semi-trucks. The high, yelping horns of taxis. The old, wheezing horns of delivery vans. From the street outside the pier, a blinding, white light flooded the gala. It was not one light, it was 20. The entire Night Drivers Alliance, the milk trucks, the delivery vans, the cabbies had arrived. They had flipped their high beams, a solid wall of searing, white light that turned the pier into a naked, overexposed stage. The Dagger Creek snipers, hidden on the rooftops, were now completely blind. Keene screamed in blind panic, "What is happening? Get those lights!" At the same moment, across the street, Trina Quill stepped onto a small, public balcony, a notary public and a cameraman from the Free Press at her side. She turned on a bullhorn. "This is a public announcement," her voice boomed over the pier. "As of 8:14 p.m., this data is now in the public record. Any attempt to detain, harm, or silence the whistleblower, Lila Hart, or to interfere with this public attestation will be met with immediate, real federal charges for witness tampering." She had done it. She had built a legal wall around me, using the public as her bricks. On the pier, Tino lowered his gun. Rowan was frantic, blinded by the lights, deafened by the horns. He started dragging Milo backward toward the dark water at the end of the pier. Tino did not run. He walked. He just stepped out of the shadows, into the blinding white light, and walked calmly toward Rowan. "It is over, Rowan." Tino's voice was not loud, but it cut through the chaos. He did not look at the knife. He did not look at Milo. He looked only at Rowan. "You were never a player, Rowan. You were a pawn." "Shut up," Rowan shrieked. Pressing the knife harder, Milo gasped. "You thought you were smart, but you were just a tool for Keene. I am his right hand. You are his liability," Tino said, taking another step. "He was cutting you loose. That is why he brought the boy. He was going to pin this all on you. The murder of a child, the rogue agent." "Liar." "Look at him." "Rowan," Tino said. "He's not even watching you. He's trying to escape." Rowan's eyes darted to Keene, who was, in fact, being bundled away by his FOCD guards, running for a private exit. "You have nothing," Tino said, his voice dropping. "No money, no power, no one." "I have the boy," Rowan screamed. "You have a witness," Tino countered. "And you have me. Let him go. It is the only move you have left." 7 sentences, each one a blade, each one cutting a string. Rowan looked at the panicking Keene. He looked at the unmoving, unstoppable Tino. He looked at the knife in his hand. The fight was gone. The cowardice that had fueled his betrayal now flooded his face. He let go of Milo. The knife clattered to the wooden planks of the pier. Milo ran, scrambling toward the kitchens, toward safety. It was over. "Sniper, take the shot," Keene's voice screamed from the exit. "Take both of them." I saw the red dot. It was not on Tino. It was on me, still exposed on the gantry. Keene was cutting his losses. Crack. The sound of the shot was different, a high-velocity flat note. I did not have time to move. But Tino was already in motion. He launched himself across the pier, a dark, impossible blur, moving faster than I thought a man could move. He did not climb. He leapt, grabbing the scaffolding and driving his body upward, tackling me, wrapping his entire body around mine, just as the bullet struck. Ping. The bullet, meant for my heart, slammed into the steel support pillar inches from my head, showering us with sparks. Tino's weight was crushing, his body a solid shield. He held me, his breath hot in my ear. "I have you. Lila, you are safe." The pier was now in total chaos, but through the screaming, I heard a new sound. Pop, pop. The night cleaners, the drivers, the milkmen, they were lighting road flares. Red, sulfurous smoke and brilliant, defiant light began to fill the pier, painting the scene in a demonic, beautiful glow. The smoke obscured the sniper's vision. It was a new wall, a wall of fire and smoke. I looked down. The crowd of wealthy donors was frozen, staring at us. They were not running. They were filming. 100 phones, held high, their small lights like stars. I had their attention. I had the stage. I looked at Keene, who was struggling with his guards, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. I found my voice. I pulled the bullhorn from my belt, the one Trina had given me, and I pointed it at him. "He is the one!" I screamed, my voice booming over the pier, over the horns, over the panic. "Adrian Keene. He's the one who ordered the shot. He's the one who kidnapped my brother. He is not the law. He is the kidnapper." The phones, all of them, they turned from me and they pointed, in unison, at Adrian Keene. The wall of silence, the one that had protected Dagger Creek for decades, the one built on fear and invisible compliance. It had just broken. Just as Keene was about to be dragged away by his own men. Trina Quill played the final card. Her voice boomed over the pier again, this time playing a new file. An audio file. It was from the access logs, the metadata attached to the video ledger. It was a recording of Adrian Keene himself, his voice unmistakable, speaking to the man who led the fake UCA. "I do not care how you get the compliance." Keene's voice echoed, cold and clear over the high-quality recording. "Break windows, break legs, the mayor is in my pocket, and the press is asleep. Dagger Creek provides the muscle. I provide the seal. This city is ours for the taking." That was the last nail. As if summoned by the audio, new sirens, real ones, wailed in the distance, not the pathetic yelps of the FOCD, but the deep, authoritative roar of the Gray Point Police Department. Real squad cars, blue and white, flooded the pier entrance, cutting off Keene's escape. The real police, the ones not on Keene's payroll, had been given an anonymous tip by Trina, timed to the second. They saw the tactical gear, the guns pointed at civilians, the video screens playing a confession, the FOCD, exposed as a fraud. Did not even try to fight. They dropped their weapons, their fake authority melting away under the real blue lights. Dagger Creek's men, the ones who had been lurking in the shadows, vanished like the rats they were, their gold mine having just collapsed in on itself. Milo ran to me. He scrambled up the gantry, his face stained with tears, and grabbed me. "Lila, I was so scared, they just took me from the dorm." I held him, my body finally succumbing to the shakes, my grip iron tight. "It is okay, Milo. It is over. You are safe." Below us, the sound of applause started. It was not from the donors. It was from the night crew, the cleaners, the drivers, the kitchen staff. They were standing by their wall of steel carts, their faces grim but triumphant, applauding us. I helped Milo down, and Tino was there. He was bruised, his shoulder bleeding through the makeshift bandage, his face streaked with grime from the roof, but his eyes were clear, and they were fixed on me. I picked up the bullhorn one last time. I stood on the edge of the stage, my brother's hand in mine, and I looked at the crowd. "My name is Lila Hart," I said, my voice echoing, strong and clear. "I am a night cleaner. Tonight we were supposed to clean up another party." I looked at the cowering, handcuffed Adrian Keene, but instead, we cleaned the city. Tino walked to my side. A real medic tried to approach him. He waved the man off, his gaze never leaving my face. The wind from the sea was cold, whipping my hair, but I had never felt warmer. He spoke, his voice low, just for me, amidst the chaos of the arrests and the sea breeze. "They will offer you witness protection, a new life, a new name, far away from here, far away from me." I looked up at him, at this man who had been a shadow, a king, a monster, and a shield. "I do not want to take you away, Lila," he said, his voice raw with an emotion he was finally letting show. "I do not want to hide you. I want to walk beside you, here, in the light." I did not answer with words. I let go of Milo's hand. I stood on my toes, put my hands on his bruised, scratched face, and I kissed him. It was not the slow, discovering kiss of the container. It was short. It was warm. It was real. It was in front of my brother, the real police, and 100 flashing cell phone cameras. It was my yes. A yes to a future we would write ourselves. The aftermath was a cascade. Trina Quill had her court date. The real federal government, embarrassed and furious, descended on Gray Point, the real sponsors, the tech billionaires, pulled their money, outraged that their names had been used. The UCA and the FOCD vanished, as if they were nothing but a bad dream. Black Banyan was buried in so many tax fraud investigations, it was forced to dissolve within a week. Tino kept his word. He did not disappear. He did not ask me to come with him into the shadows. He changed. He took his night logistics network, his hidden web of power, and he broke it apart. He kept the parts that were legitimate, the shipping, the warehousing. The rest, the 3 warehouses, the hidden assets, the shadow money, he transferred it all legally into a new public fund. He called it the Lantern Miles Fund, a community-managed trust for night shift workers and their families, run by Trina Quill. He did not make me belong to him. He had set me free, and in doing so, had freed himself. And me, I did not go back to cleaning floors. My name was cleared, and the museum offered me a massive settlement. I took just enough to pay for Milo's school, and not a dime more. I did not want their money. I took a job with a small, independent theater company, designing. The first show was an outdoor festival, right on the North Star Pier, in the same spot where the gala had collapsed. My design was simple. I did not want chandeliers. I wanted honesty. On opening night, I was up in the lighting booth. Tino was standing at the back, just watching, a shadow in the crowd. I brought the main faders up. My design flooded the stage, the pier, the entire waterfront, for the first time. Gray Point was not lit in the cold, false light of the corporations or the dim, fearful yellow of the alleys. It was lit in warm, brilliant, honest light, a city with its main switch finally thrown. Later that night, we were in his apartment, a new place, a simple loft, high above the garment district, with a massive arched window that looked out over the pier. It was not a fortress. It was a home. I was standing by the window, watching the lights I had designed. The sea salt air was cool on my face. He came up behind me, and he did not grab me. He just wrapped his arms around my waist, pulling my back against his chest. I leaned my head back against his good shoulder. "You did good, Lila Hart," he whispered, his lips brushing my hair. "We did good," I corrected. He turned me in his arms. His hands were gentle, one resting on my hip, the other tracing the line of my jaw. He just looked at me, his heart in his eyes. My hands rested on his chest, feeling the steady, calm beat of his heart. I smiled, a real smile, tasting the salt from the sea on my lips. He leaned his forehead against mine, his eyes closing. We just breathed, we just stood there, 2 people, whole and safe, in the warm light from the city we had, somehow, made our own. The window was open, the curtain fluttered, and the screen faded to warm. Sometimes, we walk. Across the North Star Bridge, the one that ties his past to my future, Milo comes with us, animatedly describing a new sauce he's created. Tino strides beside me, no longer the king of the night, but a man walking in the light. The city is not perfectly clean. It is still Gray Point, after all. But the air, it smells less of fear. And the apron, the stained canvas apron from the museum. It hangs on a simple wooden peg, just inside his closet door, a reminder, a trophy, a contract. The night I was told to clean a 300-person mess, alone. A mafia boss took that apron from me, and he said, "From now on, you are not cleaning alone." Thank you so much for listening to our story. We would be so honored if you left a comment below, letting us know where in the world you are listening from. We love to connect with you and hear your thoughts. And if you enjoyed this story, please consider subscribing to our channel, Mafia Boss Stories, and giving this video a like. You can also support us even further by hitting the hype button to help this story be heard by even more people. We will see you in the next one.